Welcome to ELA on the Move. This is a close reading of Eldorado by Edgar Allan Poe, published in 1849. First up, the theme that we start to see come into life is dreams, lifelong goals. But, and there's a keyword but in there, you also don't want to get so obsessed and lose what what your life might have been. And we'll kind of see that and come back to it. But, for now, you'll focus on those dreams, those lifelong dreams, and then we'll come back to the but. We're going to start out looking at figurative language, and then we'll look at tone and suspense, how the figurative language affects the text, as well as how do the tone and the suspense guide and create effect in the text, how they affect the text as well, kind of all in a nutshell. Some of the different ways that Poe goes about his various poems and text all tend to take on the same tone and suspense. So if you've read anything from Poe before, you've already decided or made a judgment on what you think this poem what direction it might take. So keep that in the back of your mind as you go through it. We'll also touch on, in your history and knowing the history behind the word Eldorado and what was going on in the world when he wrote it. So if you know any of that already, keep that in the back of your mind. All right, figurative language, we will look at illusion, imagery. We'll touch on personification and imagery as kind of interchangeable. You'll see them kind of in the same spaces. Metaphors. Most often, poetry holds some type of metaphoric comparison to something. So if you weren't sure, metaphors are most often always used in poetry. Assonance, alliteration, and again we'll touch on, we'll also touch on tone and suspense as it is seen in the text. All right, first up, we are going to look at the way Poe adds, as well as many other poets and writers and authors do, allusions to things in history. In this case, on line 21, you'll see where he has decided to reference Down the Valley of the Shadow, which references a Bible verse. And, perhaps he's a ghost. You hint, it's hinting that you find gold in death. Either way, it's also possibly the personification if the speaker is in fact imagining him. And he's personifying as the shadow, and he's there or not there. You have to kind of decide that on your own. But it goes back to the stanza before it where it says, "Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of Eldorado, where he met the pilgrim's shadow? Is he in fact imagined, or is he real? Is he in the afterlife? Is he in death?" Analyze that a little further. Next, we go back over to our metaphors. You'll go back to line 9, and over his heart a shadow, where he's comparing being upset, being depressed about a situation, and a shadow is over his heart, insinuating that it's comparing it to. The metaphor you find over in line 19 and 20, over the mountains of the moon, where he's comparing how to get there, how far, the length to take, comparing it to. The assonants you'll see where in the first stanza and second, just to give the example, you'll see shadow, Eldorado, old, bold, over, or shadow, and then continuous shadow through the text, for which is just superbly done and in all of. Alliteration, you'll also take a look at line 5, singing a song. That one sticks out, easy to see, easy to find that one. But overall, he does a good job, creating those sound devices that lead this poem almost in the direction of a scary sounding music that kind of lends itself to, in fact, the tone. So next up, we will kind of analyze the tone and suspense of the text and kind of see what effect it creates. And then we'll come back and kind of pull it all together. With the tone, you kind of feel almost a haunting feeling. It's a dark feeling. It's suspenseful. Suspense here is used as a literary tool to make you feel that way, to guide you in that direction. And you go through and you pick out those tone words that kind of lead you in those directions. Finding the tone words confirms to you what tone you find in a text. So take the time to look for them, list them, make sure you know what they are. Let's take a look at them. All right, that line 3, it says in sunshine and in shadow. It gives you the opposites. It gives you he was happy and then he was sad, and it's going back and forth, that good and bad feeling that kind of almost sets up the poem of, uh-oh, something's coming. So it starts you down that dark road, that dark tone. And over his heart a shadow. Well, a shadow goes over his heart, indicates something negative, something bad. He fell. No spot. We've got all these negative words. He melts a pilgrim shadow. Obviously, the word shadow all through the text is going to lead you in that direction. But pay attention to those words that help you in that direction. They all point you towards that suspense. And those same words are leading you up going, oh no, what's going to happen? So you've created suspense within the poem. Like I said, he's using it as a literary tool to lead you that direction. And we'll talk about the ending. But like many poets, you'll see, Dickinson tends to do it. O. Henry does it in short stories. You have that twist ending. You have that surprise ending. Well, this wasn't totally a surprise. You kind of saw it coming. But it still creates an effect where that suspense makes you hold your breath waiting for what's coming. Those purposeful tone words create that dark, suspenseful feeling. So in a way, he created the effect he wanted. They affect the poem in the way that they create suspense and that dark tone. Let's take a look at the rhyme scheme real quick. That AABCCB, and it's put into sextets. It's purposely put that way so that if you do put it to a beat, you can feel it. You can feel the music. I've said in some of my other videos, sing it. No one's looking. You'll hear it. Try singing a poem. You've heard that musical lyrics quite often are a form of poetry. Well, the same thing happens here. It's almost a scary movie theme. Like I talked about before, the word shadow only enhances it. It makes it suspenseful. That background music, or even a theme song to start the movie off. That word shadow, purposely put inside the poem to lead you in that direction. It has a continuous pattern, so again, those dreams of lifelong goals, but, all right, so the poem is setting you up for that but. You know, you've got all these goals, you've got all these things, but if you get so obsessed, what are the consequences? And the word consequences is an important word you want to use. Remember your vocabulary, because this poem, in a sense, especially with the ending, shows you your consequences. Or, in a sense, where you might find your supposed utopia or lifelong place of Eldorado that you're searching for. Right? Take a look at the ending. The shadow replied, "If you seek for Eldorado." You know, it's somewhat surprise ending. You find out it was futile in the end. The dream was there, but thereafter you kind of learn that that obsession didn't necessarily get what you wanted. You ended without obtaining it. You know, what would your life have turned out to be? And then there's the what if the poem was simply about death, and then you reread it from the start with that in mind. But then you ask yourself, what is the purpose of the poem if that's the case? So take a look at that, you know, reread it, analyze it. But you want to ponder what the ultimate theme is. Where was he going with this? What was he really wanting to achieve? Paired texts that go well with this poem. An excerpt of Wizard of Oz is absolutely fabulous. You know, the various characters are looking for what they think they need, and in the end, they find out something differently. Nothing Gold Can Stay by Frost, fabulous, lends into this perfectly. King Midas is a great short story. The man who wanted everything gold and the consequences of it. And also nonfiction research. Let the students research more on the history of where explorers thought Eldorado to be, especially targeting, you know, there are boys who've played the video game Uncharted, all right? I'm a gamer. I get that. They usually buy into this poem, especially with that. But the research, Poe not only, you know, he wasn't the only one who used that title, but he used this title several times throughout his writings. It symbolized basically somewhere, you know, what the theme represents, perhaps the gold rush, the actual Eldorado, or even figuratively, how far, you know, to go in search of a lifelong dream or pursuits, or to think about the consequences of what might come if you pursue those dreams. Sometimes there are choices we need to take in life, which also can lend yourself back to the poem Road Not Taken by Frost. In a sense, this one does have a bit of a adventure to pursue. It's a story. So students like this because it does tell a story. So use that to your advantage in that it becomes a great introduction poem text to open up a text like Wizard of Oz to use in your class. Let's analyze the title. He called it Eldorado. Like I said, he used that either to figuratively mean how far you go in life to pursue a goal, or it could, you know, he was writing during the times of the gold rush. There were all types of history you could read on people in search of the actual Eldorado, but they all symbolize something, that lifelong dream of getting somewhere, but analyze those consequences before you get to them. All right. If you found this video helpful, hit like, hit subscribe. Help your students, fellow students and teachers out as well. Teachers helping teachers out.